A woman becomes obsessed not when you chase her, but when you master yourself, live with purpose, protect your energy, and value your time. Confidence without needing validation, presence without pursuit, and respectful detachment make you unforgettable. She craves the man who cannot be easily possessed, yet cannot be ignored. When you think about attraction at its deepest level, it is never about what you say or how much effort you put into chasing someone. It is about the energy you carry and the way you carry yourself. A man who has mastered himself becomes magnetic without even trying. Self mastery is the foundation of true power because it shows that you are in control of the one thing most men are not, their emotions. Instead of reacting to every little thing a woman does, instead of trying to constantly please her or gain her approval, a man with self mastery remains centered. He is calm when others are frantic, composed when others are desperate, and focused when others are distracted. That level of emotional discipline makes a woman feel like she has encountered something rare, something she cannot find everywhere. Women are naturally drawn to strength, not the kind that shows off or tries to prove itself, but the kind that speaks in silence. A man who is in control of his desires doesn't need to beg for attention. He doesn't need to compete for validation, and he doesn't need to manipulate situations to feel wanted. His stability creates a contrast with the chaos most people live in, and that is what makes him stand out. A woman becomes obsessed with the man who knows how to regulate his own energy because that energy becomes a safe yet powerful presence in her life. When you live with self mastery, you show through action that you are not a prisoner of impulse. You don't get carried away by temporary emotions. You don't lose yourself in arguments and you don't compromise your dignity for fleeting satisfaction. This kind of restraint is not weakness. It is the purest form of strength. It communicates to her that you are the type of man who cannot be easily shaken, and that makes her want to be part of your world. She realizes that your attention is earned, not handed out freely. Beyond emotions, self-mastery also applies to your goals, your discipline, and your lifestyle. A man who knows what he wants and consistently works toward it shows that he values his own life above temporary distractions. He doesn't let laziness dictate his choices. He doesn't get swayed by temptation. He builds himself every single day. That commitment radiates confidence without words. A woman watching this will begin to crave that energy because deep down she knows that a man who can master himself can also lead, protect, and inspire. The truth is, women test men all the time, not to be cruel, but to measure the strength of a man's character. When she sees that you cannot be broken by her silence, her mood swings, or her withdrawal of attention, she begins to admire you on a different level. That admiration slowly turns into obsession because you are not giving her what every other man does, desperation. Instead, you give her something priceless, stability wrapped in mystery. And that is the power of self-mastery. A woman doesn't become obsessed with the man who constantly runs after her, calling, texting, and begging for her attention. That kind of behavior only tells her that you have no control over yourself and that your worth depends on her validation. Instead, she becomes drawn to the man who knows the power of his presence. Presence is not about being physically around her all the time. It's about the energy you carry when you walk into a room, when you speak, and when you exist in her life. A man who understands this doesn't chase because he knows that pursuit often kills attraction. It puts him in a lower position, making him seem like he needs her more than she needs him. True influence comes when you can make her crave your attention without ever lowering your standards to chase after it. Presence works because it carries weight. When a man lives with self-respect, ambition, and focus, his presence lingers long after he leaves. She thinks about him not because he is constantly in her face, but because his energy has an impact. Imagine the difference between a man who is always available, always trying to impress, versus a man who is selective, who values his time, and who only gives his energy when it's deserved. The second man becomes unforgettable because he doesn't make himself cheap. Scarcity creates desire, and his presence becomes something she looks forward to, something she waits for. Chasing, on the other hand, creates imbalance. When a man chases, he tells her she is above him, that he is seeking permission to be chosen. That dynamic is the fastest way to kill obsession because obsession only grows when she feels that she has something rare she might lose. Presence communicates rarity. You don't need to say much. Your silence, your discipline, and your confidence already speak louder than desperate words ever could. The beauty of presence over pursuit is that it shifts the power dynamic without games. You don't need to play tricks, ignore her on purpose, or act cold. All you need to do is genuinely live a life filled with purpose and strength, where her attention is welcomed but not required. When she realizes that her approval is not your oxygen, she begins to seek you out more, wondering why you're different from the rest. She starts to notice the way you move, the way you hold yourself, the calm confidence that makes her want to be noticed by you. This is how obsession is born. Not through begging, not through chasing, but through the quiet strength of presence. It is in the way you look into her eyes without flinching, the way you stand firm in your values, the way you do not collapse under pressure to win her over. You make her feel your presence even when you are not around. That is the art of attraction without pursuit. And once she experiences it, she cannot forget it. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. And when it comes to relationships, it works with even greater intensity. What is easily available rarely feels valuable. The moment you hand over all of your time, attention, and energy without hesitation, you send a silent message that your presence has no price. And when something has no price, it loses its worth. Women naturally desire what feels rare, what feels earned, and what carries an element of exclusivity. This is why a man who is not constantly available, who guards his energy, and who does not pour himself out at the feet of a woman automatically becomes more desirable. She begins to wonder why he is different, why he does not run after her like the rest, and why his attention feels like something she must work for. That curiosity slowly grows into obsession. Scarcity is not about playing childish games or purposely withholding yourself to manipulate her. It is about genuinely living in such a way that your life is filled with purpose, discipline, and standards. A man who is building himself cannot be at the beck and call of someone else because he knows his time is valuable. This natural sense of scarcity makes her see that his attention is not something that comes easily. When she realizes that she cannot just snap her fingers and get him whenever she wants, she begins to crave his presence even more. She starts to feel that every interaction with him matters. Every moment with him is special because it doesn't happen all the time. Think about how people treat luxury items. It is never about how shiny or colorful they are. It is about how rare they are. Diamonds hold value not because they are beautiful alone, but because they are not easily found everywhere. In the same way, when a man's time and attention are rare, it makes a woman respect and desire it at a deeper level. Contrast this with a man who floods her with constant messages, calls, and availability. He becomes common, predictable, and easy to dismiss. Scarcity also creates anticipation. When she doesn't know when she will see you next, when she cannot predict how much of your time she will get, she becomes more invested. Her emotions become tied to the uncertainty of your availability. She starts to value each interaction more intensely because it doesn't happen on demand. This unpredictability plants you in her thoughts, and she begins to chase without even realizing it. The truth is, women do not want men who hand themselves over without resistance. They want men who inspire them to rise, to prove, to earn. Scarcity creates this dynamic naturally. By protecting your time, by setting boundaries, and by never allowing yourself to be overexposed, you make her realize that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And once she understands that, she won't be able to stop thinking about how to get more of you. Confidence that depends on approval is not confidence. It is insecurity dressed up as strength. A man who constantly needs a woman to reassure him, to compliment him, or to validate his worth is placing his power in her hands. And once she senses that, she loses respect. True confidence is built from within. It comes from knowing who you are, where you're going, and what you stand for. It is unshakable because it is not rooted in someone else's opinion, but in your own self-belief. That kind of confidence makes a woman feel something different because she cannot control it. She cannot manipulate it and she cannot take it away. Instead, she feels pulled toward it, intrigued by it, and ultimately obsessed with it. A man who carries this inner confidence walks into a room without needing to be the loudest or the most noticed. Yet, people sense his presence. He does not brag about his achievements. He does not demand recognition, and he does not rely on others to remind him of his value. He already knows it, and that knowing radiates in his posture, his tone, and his silence. This is what separates men who chase attention from men who attract it naturally. When a woman sees that you are not begging for her compliments or her approval, she starts to wonder what makes you so sure of yourself. That mystery makes her want to discover more. And in that discovery, she invests more and more energy into you. The dangerous mistake most men make is thinking that validation will keep a woman close. They believe if they keep asking for reassurance, she will feel important and stay interested. But in reality, this only drains her attraction because it feels like she is being forced to mother his self-esteem. Women do not become obsessed with men they have to build up. They become obsessed with men who already stand tall on their own. Confidence without validation tells her you are solid whether she is there or not, whether she praises you or not. That independence creates respect, and respect is the root of lasting attraction. This doesn't mean arrogance. Arrogance is loud, insecure, and defensive. Real confidence is quiet, calm, and unshakable. It does not need to prove anything. It does not need to convince anyone. It simply is. That is why it is so rare, and that is why it is so captivating. Women naturally gravitate toward a man who moves through life with certainty because that certainty feels safe yet exciting. She knows she cannot easily manipulate him with her moods or her silence because his worth doesn't come from her. When you embody confidence without validation, you show her that your self-image is untouchable. You show her that you are already complete. That completeness is what makes her crave your attention because you do not need her, but she wants to feel like she has earned a place in your world. And that's when obsession begins. A man who lives for pleasure alone quickly becomes ordinary, predictable, and easy to control. When his main priority is to impress a woman, spend all his energy on her, and make her the center of his universe, he sends a clear message that he has no greater mission in life. And the truth is, no woman becomes obsessed with a man whose existence revolves around her. She may enjoy the attention for a while, but deep down, she loses respect because he has no higher ground to stand on. A man who prioritizes purpose before pleasure, however, instantly separates himself from the rest. He shows through his actions that his life is about building, achieving, and becoming more, not about chasing temporary satisfaction. That level of discipline is rare, and rarity always draws admiration and desire. Purpose is magnetic because it creates direction. A man with a vision is not swayed by distractions. He doesn't cancel his goals just because someone demands his time. He doesn't sacrifice his standards for quick gratification. He knows where he's going, and everything in his life aligns with that mission. When a woman encounters a man like this, she sees someone who cannot be easily moved, someone who values himself enough to put long term fulfillment above short term pleasure. That sense of focus creates both respect and obsession because it forces her to step into his world rather than trying to pull him into hers. What most men fail to understand is that constantly prioritizing a woman over their goals doesn't make her love them more. It makes her see them as weak. She may use the attention, but she won't feel true attraction. Women want to feel that they are a part of something bigger when they are with a man, that his life has weight and purpose beyond her. When she realizes she cannot distract him from his mission, she starts to admire him, chase his presence, and crave his approval. He becomes the challenge she cannot easily conquer, and that challenge keeps her invested. Living for purpose doesn't mean rejecting relationships or ignoring intimacy. It means not losing yourself in them. A man who puts his work, his growth, and his mission at the center of his life radiates a different kind of energy. An energy that tells her he is not here to entertain, but to lead. He does not seek pleasure as an escape, but as a reward. This is why, when such a man gives her attention, it feels like a privilege because she knows he is not wasting time. He is choosing her deliberately. That choice carries more weight than constant availability ever could. A woman becomes obsessed with the man who is not distracted by her beauty, her silence, or her games. She obsesses because she wants to be part of his journey, not because he made her the journey itself. And that is the power of purpose before pleasure. It creates a man whose value cannot be questioned and whose presence cannot be ignored. Respectful detachment is one of the most powerful dynamics a man can embody because it balances two qualities most men fail to combine: kindness and boundaries. Many men either become cold and dismissive to protect themselves, or they become overly accommodating and lose all respect. Neither creates obsession. A woman does not become hooked on a man who is harsh and bitter, nor does she become drawn to a man who clings to her approval. What truly captures her attention is the man who can care without clinging, who can give without begging, and who can stay grounded even when emotions run high. That is respectful detachment, remaining connected without being consumed. When a man practices respectful detachment, he sends a message that his world does not revolve around her moods or her decisions. He values her, but he values himself more. He respects her, but he will not tolerate disrespect in return. This balance communicates strength because it shows he has control over his emotions. A woman is naturally curious about a man she cannot easily sway with silence, drama, or temptation. She may test him to see if he breaks, but when he doesn't, when he remains calm yet firm, she realizes she is dealing with someone different. That realization is the seed of obsession. Respectful detachment also shifts the power dynamic in a subtle way. Instead of being pulled into her world and constantly reacting to her, he stays rooted in his own. He does not ignore her on purpose or play childish games. He simply lives with standards that he never compromises. If she crosses a line, he steps back without anger, without begging, and without resentment. That silence is louder than any argument because it shows he will not fight for what disrespects him. Women deeply respect men who hold this line because it proves he is not afraid to lose her. And ironically, it is that fearlessness that makes her afraid of losing him. This kind of detachment does not push her away. It pulls her in. It makes her wonder why her tricks don't work, why her absence doesn't shake him, and why her approval doesn't define his mood. That mystery creates a sense of challenge, and challenge is what keeps her invested. She begins to value his presence more because she knows it is not guaranteed. She starts to chase the validation he doesn't hand out easily. And the more she chases, the more obsessed she becomes. At the heart of respectful detachment is self respect. A man who respects himself will never collapse into desperation, nor will he treat others with cruelty. He remains steady, controlled, and dignified. He understands that love without respect is worthless, and respect can only exist when boundaries are clear. That is why this balance is so rare and why it drives women into obsession. It is not about being distant. It is about being strong enough to stay connected without ever losing yourself. Predictability is comfortable, but it is never exciting. When a man becomes too predictable, too routine, too easy to figure out, attraction begins to fade. Women are emotional creatures, and emotions thrive on stimulation, on anticipation, on the unknown. That is why unpredictability, when balanced with consistency, becomes a powerful force in making a woman stay hooked. It keeps her curious, keeps her guessing, and keeps her invested because she never fully knows what to expect next. This doesn't mean being unreliable or unstable. It means creating moments of surprise, variety, and depth that prevent the relationship from falling into boredom. Unpredictability works because it taps into a woman's natural need for emotional intensity. She wants to feel something powerful when she's around you, not the dull safety of routine. If she knows exactly when you'll call, what you'll say, how you'll react, and how you'll behave, her mind stops racing. There's no mystery left. And without mystery, there's no obsession. But when you maintain an element of unpredictability, when you don't reveal every thought, when you don't always respond the same way, when you bring spontaneity into interactions, you make her constantly wonder about you. That wonder fuels attraction and keeps her emotionally engaged. This doesn't mean playing games or being inconsistent in your values. A man must be steady in his standards and reliable in his character, but within that strength, he can still keep her guessing. For example, instead of always being available, sometimes you're focused on your goals and let her miss you. Instead of always doing the same routine dates, you bring variety and creativity. Instead of reacting the way she expects during conflict, you surprise her by staying calm and collected. These moments break the pattern in her mind and remind her that you are not easy to decode. That sense of unpredictability makes her think about you even when you're not around. The more a woman thinks about you, the deeper she falls into emotional investment. Unpredictability creates this loop in her mind where she is always anticipating your next move, always wondering what you'll do or say, always curious about how you'll respond. That anticipation alone can make her obsessed because it ties her emotions directly to your actions. She doesn't get the comfort of knowing she has you fully figured out, and that uncertainty makes her work harder for your attention. The truth is, women chase excitement as much as they chase love. A man who is consistent yet unpredictable delivers both. He gives her the safety of knowing he won't betray her values, but he also gives her the thrill of never fully knowing what comes next. That balance is rare, and that rarity is what keeps her hooked. It makes every interaction feel alive, every conversation feel fresh, and every moment feel like it carries possibility. Once a woman experiences that with a man, she struggles to let it go because nothing else feels as engaging. That is why unpredictability, when done right, becomes the silent weapon of obsession. Energy is the silent language that speaks before you ever open your mouth. Long before a woman pays attention to what you say, she feels who you are. Your tone, your body language, your presence, and the way you carry yourself communicate louder than any words could. A man who truly understands this does not waste energy trying to convince a woman of his worth, he embodies it. Women are highly intuitive and they pick up on the smallest signals. If your words say one thing, but your energy says another, she will always believe your energy. This is why mastering your inner state is far more important than rehearsing clever lines or strategies. When a man walks into a room with grounded confidence, steady posture, and calm eyes, he sends a message without saying a word. That message is, I know who I am. I don't need anyone's approval, and I am enough. That type of energy is magnetic because it carries certainty, and certainty is rare. In contrast, a man who is nervous, restless, or desperate communicates weakness, no matter how charming his words may sound. A woman may smile politely, but she feels the instability in his presence, and that feeling turns her off. Attraction is emotional, not logical, which is why your energy has to align with the strength you claim to have. Energy also reveals your level of self control. If you are quick to anger, quick to beg, or quick to break down when things don't go your way, your energy screams insecurity. But when you remain calm under pressure, when you hold your ground without raising your voice, when you stay steady, no matter how chaotic the situation becomes, your energy tells her that you are unshakable. That stability is deeply attractive because it makes her feel safe, yet challenged at the same time. Safe because she knows you won't collapse when life gets tough. Challenged because she knows she can't easily manipulate you with her moods. A powerful thing about energy is that it lingers. Even when you are not around, she remembers how she felt in your presence. If your energy made her feel inspired, respected, and drawn in, she will replay that experience in her mind over and over. This is how obsession begins, not from the words you said, but from the feeling you created. That feeling becomes addictive. She may not even understand why she keeps thinking about you, but it is your energy imprinting on her subconscious. The truth is, women do not fall for men because of rehearsed conversations or forced charm. They fall for how a man makes them feel without him trying too hard. If your energy communicates strength, calmness, purpose, and self respect, she will feel it before she processes it. And once she feels it, she cannot ignore it. That's why energy always speaks louder than words, and why a man who masters his energy doesn't need to chase because his presence alone does the work of attraction. At the end of it all, making a woman obsessed with you has nothing to do with chasing, begging, or proving your worth. It has everything to do with mastering yourself. When you live with discipline, when you value your time, when your purpose comes before pleasure, you create an energy that pulls her in without effort. Your presence becomes a privilege. Your scarcity creates desire, and your confidence speaks louder than any words. You don't need to play games or pretend to be someone you're not. You only need to stand firm in who you are. Hold your boundaries with respect and let your unpredictability and strength keep her invested. Obsession is born not from giving everything away, but from making her feel that your attention is rare, valuable, and earned. Women don't stay drawn to men who collapse under pressure or seek constant validation. They stay drawn to men who are grounded, self assured, and untouchable in their energy. That is the kind of man who doesn't chase but still gets chased. That is the kind of man who doesn't beg for love but inspires devotion. And that is the kind of man you must become if you truly want her to never stop thinking about you.